Our speaker today is Donna Janesky, as I mentioned before. She's been a member of UUCJ for 46 years. While being an active member, Donna has enjoyed a long career in nursing, working in acute care as head nurse and as an instructor, co-director of the Methodist Hospice, as a director of nursing, as vice president of clinical services and long-term care, and as a quality improvement consultant before she retired. Here at UUCJ, she has served as past board president, taught OWL classes, served on too many committees to mention, and for outreach, she just happened to serve on the board of the Arlington Community Garden. With all that being said, please welcome our own chief wise woman and resident crone, Donna Janesky.
Well, good morning, and welcome to 2017, the Chinese Zodiac Year of the Rooster. For those of you who may be new to the church, I have presented a look back at the previous year for some time now, and just a little explanation about how it all began. Our former minister, Ron Hersom, used to do this regularly, and one year he asked me to assist him in this year-end review. And when he became ill, I just continued on doing it solo. So here I am, and you need to tell me when you're through with this, okay? So I have a question to ask of you. How many of you would like to go back a year and see 2016 repeated? Raise your hands. Oh, we do have a few. It was quite a year, wasn't it? We had political campaigning, ad nauseum, pension reform, politics, the HRO still isn't passed, and how about those Jaguars? Where's Tom Larson? And then there was Brexit, Syria's refugee crisis, and police violence against people of color. Some of you may want a redo of 2016 to get different outcomes, and some of you may just want to forget about it and pretend it never happened. For the best explanation of Donald Trump's victory, journalist Selena Zito hit the nail on the head. The press takes him literally, but not seriously. His supporters take him seriously, but not literally. Pretty cool, huh? My husband found that one. He really liked that one. It may be no surprise to you that the word xenophobia was dictionary.com's word of the year. It is defined as for or hatred of foreigners, people from different cultures, or strangers. Oxford's word is post-truth, and surreal is Merriam-Webster's pick. It's clear that the fear of otherness bruised our consciousness around the globe, and we found it unbelievable. But we can't order a redo on 2016. So it's on to 2017. Because we recognize and honor those who have died this past year, I will be talking about death. But as we think about our lives here on this earth plane, I'm hoping to inspire you with the task of living authentically, joyously, purposefully, until you take your leave. And I quote, "Don't be afraid of death. Be afraid of an unlived life. You don't have to live forever. You just have to live." So let's get to it. This July, I attended SUSE, which, for those of you who may not be familiar, stands for Southern Unitarian Southeast Summer Institute. Quite a mouthful, that's why they say SUSE. And it was the first time we went to West Carolina University. And after a long absence on my part, I used to go very frequently in my younger years. And so it's been a long time since I went. So Lois Heft and I said, we're going to go this year, and we had a marvelous time. One of my favorite workshops was titled Death Cafe. About 25 people sat at tables of 5 or 6, and we had coffee and cake, and we were advised to talk about death, no holds barred. What began slowly turned into a tumultuous conversation on everyone's part. Imagine being permission to talk about death that is often disguised in euphemisms and hushed tones, or you don't talk about it at all. The room was alive with conversation about funerals and wills, end-of-life issues, advance directives, burials, fears, relatives, you name it. We were still going when the time was up. We had to be stopped. In addition to this workshop, I took another one on green burials. Basically, one can forego cremations and caskets and is simply returned to the earth to become a part of the universe. Totally non-toxic. You don't have to be embalmed or anything. There are 2 sites in Florida where you can do this. One is in Gainesville and one is in Tallahassee. I would like to present these workshops here sometime this year, so if you are interested, you can attend when you see it in the announcements. Did you know that it is no longer news when people turn 100? The number of centenarians is up by 44% since 2000, and this trend will simply continue. In sheer numbers, there are over 72,000 in 2014, up from 50,000 in the year 2000. The vast majority, 80% of people over 100, are women. You guessed it. So men, check it out. It probably involves more regular doctor visits, regular exercise, healthy eating, and avoiding risky behaviors. I do want to recognize the world's oldest living woman, oldest living person, believed to be the last surviving person in the world who was born in the 1800s. Her name is Emma Morano, and she is 117 and lives in Verbania, Italy. And her physician credits good genes, and of course, she's a woman. I've been discussing obituaries for several years now. I even titled these sermons obituary until someone called the church office a few years ago and thought I died because it said obituary Donna Janesky. But it seems that obituaries have taken a new spotlight lately. You might have noticed. Last year I talked about Emily Phillips of Orange Park, who wrote her own obituary, which went viral. Some people even plagiarized parts of it for their own relatives' obituary. It's been seen more than 2 million times, and the story went everywhere. The Today Show, the Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, newspapers in England, Facebook, it was all over the world. It was very positive and uplifting, especially the part where she said she would be dancing, probably naked. And so it's no surprise that there was an article in the Times-Union on November 15th that encouraged people to write their own obituaries so they can have a final say and get it right. Legacy.com, the site that partners with newspapers and funeral homes to publish obituaries, reported 525 self-penned obits compared to 165 a decade ago. There are also writing classes being offered on selfie obituaries. Reminds me of my hospice days when we had to write our own obituary. That was quite a task back then. A self-written obituary, though, can be very affirming and makes you think of your future as well as your past. It emphasizes unfinished business as well as shares your family history with future generations. So here are a few excerpts from the Times-Union during 2016. Baxter Luther's self-written obit said, "No matter how rich or powerful you think you are, the size of your funeral will be determined by the weather." Alan Ball passed away from, quote, "being too awesome for this world," unquote. Annette Garner stipulated, she was 84, stipulated that another Clinton in the White House would kill her, so she was getting out while she could. In lieu of flowers, she respectfully requests that you vote for anyone other than Hillary. In the interest of equal time, Ruth wanted to be sure her obit included this final line: "If you vote for Donald Trump, you must be a blank blank ass." Cecil Bradley said, "I'm paid up, prayed up, and ready to go." Rachel Shannon went fishing with her husband Bill and Jesus on June 27th. Barbara Phillips' daughter admonished, if you are lucky enough to have your mother around and you haven't hugged or loved on her lately, please do so. She deserves it. And lastly, Leroy Black's dueling obituaries appeared together in the Atlantic City Press. One saying he's survived by his wife, and the other right below saying he's survived by his girlfriend. Remember, some things do follow us to the grave. So let us remember those who left us in 2016. These are UUCJ members that are no longer with us. Vincent Robert Annis, longtime member of UUCJ, married to Connie, raised 4 sons, and enriched our lives with his Greek heritage. Ham Waddell, set designer at the Alhambra Dinner Theater for 35 years. His creative imagination and ability to make things certainly made our Swanee canoe trips and our Susie trips much more memorable. Mavis Green, UUSC chairperson for our church and frequent religious service associate. Mavis had a green burial in Gainesville and was laid to rest wrapped in a family quilt. She wanted everyone to have an ice cream sundae at her memorial service, and I thought of her and her wonderful smile as I enjoyed every spoonful. Phyllis Fleming, living with nature was very important to Phyllis as well as her family. The nature walk in the back of our church was donated by the Fleming family and is sustained by them. Ruth Rowe. Ruth was almost 92 when she left us. She lived a life of helping others through her work as a social worker, educator of the mentally disabled, and through her work with social justice. Nathan Weiss, husband of member Fee Diedrich, was 88. He was a Boy Scout leader and active in the Jewish community. Ralph Safi, 86, was active in civic groups that promote justice, equality, and compassion. And Helen Redfern, a lifelong UU who lived to be the age of 97. She was a worldwide traveler who advocated fun, independence, long life learning, healthy eating, and exercise, and being wise with money. I have a few local deaths that I thought were notable. Lois Grassley, a Jacksonville girl who was a writer, educator, activist, and artist. William Morgan, architect and author, famous for the Dune House in Atlantic Beach. Charlie Coleman, sports shop owner, known for his generous spirit. Richard McKissick, theater manager and mentor. Wendell Holmes, equal education rights activist and first African-American elected to the Duval County School Board. And Ernie Mastriani, WJXT investigative reporter, and later college professor at Northwestern University. And here are the celebrity deaths. I'm sure you've seen them and know them. They've been on TV and in the newspapers and so forth, so I'll go through them quickly. Some sports figures: Muhammad Ali, Arnold Palmer, Pat Summitt, hockey player Gordie Howe, and pitcher Jose Fernandez, who died at 24. Singers and musicians: Otis Clay, David Bowie at 69, Sonny James, Frank Sinatra Jr., Prince at 57, Leon Russell, Sharon Jones, Glenn Frey of the Eagles, and of course Leonard Cohen, age 82. Some actors and filmmakers: Dan Haggerty, Abe Vigoda, Gary Shandling, Patty Duke, Alan Young, Michael Cimino, Gary Marshall, Gene Wilder, Robert Vaughn, Florence Henderson, Alan Thicke, Zsa Gabor at 99, singer Michael George, and most recently, Carrie Fisher at age 60, and sadly her mother at 84. And on December 31st, Father Mulcahy, William Christopher from MASH. Some authors and other notables: John Glenn, 95, the first astronaut to orbit the Earth, Nancy Reagan, Antonin Scalia, Harper Lee, Joe Garagiola, Today Show host, Morley Safer. Morley died, he was 84, and he died just days after retiring from 60 Minutes. Pat Conroy, Edward Albee, Gwen Ifill at 61, Janet Reno, 78. And lastly, Greta Friedman. I bet you don't know who she is. She's the woman in the nurse's uniform who was kissed in Times Square by a sailor on VJ Day, made famous by the Eisenstadt photo. She was 92. I want to share 2 short stories with you. This is from Lessons from Terror by David Rosenfeld. It's about a guy who lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. He was heading downtown and had 3 modes of transportation available. He could take a bus, hail a cab, or walk. It was not exactly a momentous decision. He decided to take a bus, and during the ride, he met a woman he had known in high school and dated. They reconnected, fell in love, and got married. He went into her father's business, which then unraveled in fraud. He became implicated, and with his life falling apart and facing jail, he committed suicide. Now let's turn the page. The guy decides to take a cab downtown instead, so he didn't meet the woman on the bus, and he winds up living a completely different life. In the next chapter, he decides to walk, and of course, a third life unfolds. The obvious point is that seemingly incidental choices we make can change everything. Is it fate or just the power of the arbitrary? We take paths for apparently accidental reasons, but they can have a huge impact. Now, it makes you think about all the major decisions we make that are conscious and really do influence our lives, like smoking, healthy eating. I'm probably harping on that, but I do teach a healthy eating class here at church. Career choices, college choice, life partner, friendships, geographic locations. The list goes on. So I will leave you to ponder that as you reflect on your own New Year's Eve, your own resolutions for 2017. The next story is about my grandson, Dallas. I wrote this in 2008, so it's been a little bit of time ago. It's called A Few More Minutes. This supplication is uttered every night by my 3-year-old grandson, Dallas, when he becomes aware that the day is drawing to a close and bedtime is near. Often he says it of his own accord, even though his parents have not yet mentioned bedtime. He is simply acutely aware of the imminent moment of time when he must succumb and surrender to the end of another day. He will say, "A few more minutes, Grandma," though he is tired and weary and stubbornly resistant to relent to that dream state of consciousness that is the hallmark of sleep. I think there are many times in life when we have all wished for a few more minutes. How do we satisfy ourselves with all the delights and happy times within our allotted time? I always wished happy times could have had a few more minutes. I never wanted the delicious anticipation of opening birthday presents or Christmas presents to end. When the last one was opened, I knew the surprise was over. A few more minutes of that wonderful feeling was always on my mind. When advised it was time to go home from trick-or-treating at Halloween, from riding the carousel at Pleasure Beach, or returning home from the playground, my wish was always for a few more minutes. My dad would read to us from the encyclopedia every night. There was a volume with children's stories, and a particularly lengthy story was Tansy and Bobbles, an adventure about animals and jungles. Dad read a little bit each night, and we always begged for a few more minutes. I wish I had a few more minutes to say goodbye to my first love when we had a final parting. What I would give now for a few more minutes with my mother and father before they died. How simple, how fleeting, yet how precious those moments can be. One cannot help but wonder as we approach our final hours on this earth if we will be asking for a few more minutes. Will there be some unforgotten task, a person to whom we have not said goodbye, perhaps a person not forgiven or a place not visited? Dallas may be reminding us to live in the moment and not put off what is dear to us for another time. We need to savor the joy and pleasure found in the present, so we will not be in need of a few more minutes when the moment to close our eyes for a final time is upon us. For now, I easily succumb to Dallas's wish for a few more minutes. I admire his pluck to keep on going, though eyes are heavy-lidded and limbs are weary. My wish for him is to live his life in such a way that he will have no need for a few more minutes, but that he will live fully and robustly every hour of every day and enter the sweet dreams of repose, knowing that he has satisfied his body and soul each and every day. May you use your minutes wisely in 2017. Now, it's been our custom for the past few years to honor those who have had no one to mourn them, their passing. You have a list of the names of the homeless who have died in Jacksonville in your order of service. And I would like us to read each name together as we think about and honor the dignity and worth of each and every person. Charles Abram, Avery Brader Belcher, Gregory Baker, Janice Belson, Ernest Bell, Anthony Christini, Rodney Garris, Hamlet, Jose Antonio Irizarry, Michael Lane, Mary Lang, James McDonald, Don McBride, Russell McCrae, John Gerard McDonald, Daniel Medina, David T. Murrah, Jr., Michelle Myers, Gary Edwin North, Robert O'Neill, Gary Michael Tuttle, Terrence A. Upshur, Roosevelt Williams, Thomas Williams. May they all rest in peace. Blessed be. Thank you.